Good morning. Thank you for taking the time to chat with us. And first of all, I would like for the public in Romania to share a little bit of who you are and about your organization's work and like the mission of your organization.
So thank you, Attila, for the invitation. I'm very happy to discover the Romanian public today and to talk to the Romanian public. So I'm Salwa Boujour. It's been 8 years. I'm a multimedia journalist in Belgium, Brussels. And 5 years ago, I co-founded the Association for Diversity and Inclusion in the Media. And I'm also a writer. So I write about women's rights and representation in the media and in the narratives. Why did I create the Association for Diversity and Inclusion in the Media? Basically for two reasons. The first one was that everyone is hearing about diversity. Everyone agrees that we need diversity, but no one is really taking actions. And I could see the lack of diversity when I was a student yet. And I could also see the discrimination that was remaining in the newsroom, despite the fact those media were having a public discourse about willing more diversity inside the newsroom. So I was like, okay, I personally experienced discrimination as a woman of color, visibly Muslim. I know a lot of people in my environment that also experience discrimination, frontal discrimination because of their skin color, accent, because of their gender, sexual orientation. And I was like, okay, we really need a space to gather and to address this situation, because most of the time when I was, contacting the editor-in-chiefs asking why they have the lack of diversity, they were saying, yes, but we don't find diversity. We want diversity, but we don't find it. But we were there, we were present, and we had not the same opportunity to enter the market, So I really wanted to create a space to raise our voice and also to create awareness, but not only, because, diversity is also a question of skills. And if there is a lack of diversity, it's also because there is a lack of skills in the media teams, So according to the human resources, we could meet. They don't really know what diversity is. They have vague image of what it should be. They don't really have a clear process inside, to recruit this diversity. They don't have like a clear rule, like inside the newsroom to welcome that diversity. So basically, it was a no man's land, And we really needed to make the space to raise our voice and create also some tools that we could share with the media, to help them increase the diversity.
Thank you for doing this job, and I would go into a bit of the definitions of this, because as you mentioned, there is a lack of knowledge on it, and I would start with discrimination and in our sector. Maybe you can share with our public how is it looking, and if there are research and data that you can share with us. Is this phenomenon at what level? So maybe just to define a little bit these concepts.
So basically, what we refers to when we talk about diversity is the criteria that are protected by law in Belgium. So you have race, you have gender, you have the social class you come from, especially when you are, from a very fragile social class, and you have the disability, you have the sexual orientation, and we can see. And it's also testified by European reports that you have some people that are really targeted, by hate speech, discrimination. It's Muslim people, Black people, and Romanian people, and people from LGBTQIA plus communities. So we really try to put the highlight on that kind of discrimination. And we really want to be, to listen to people, especially when they are facing intersectionality. Because, sometimes you're not just a Muslim, you're also a woman. Maybe you come from a fragile social class, and maybe you from the LGBTQIA plus community. So then, it's like having more and more, how can I say that in English? So yeah, you're just basically facing more oppression, it's just like crossing, and
Right.
it adds more difficulties to have basic rights and to be treated as your colleague who may be white or males.
But how does that look? And what was your experience in, and is maybe an experience in the media sector? Because
Yeah.
your mission is strictly on our industry. What did you see from this perspective of maybe
Why?
sexism and
Yeah.
discrimination against in the
Mm-mm.
yeah, in
What
the
I just
newsroom?
what I just said is completely accurate for the media sector as
Mhm.
well. We may see, first of all, in the media sector that in Belgium, you only have 30% of women journalists having the press card in comparison to 70% for males. And that's completely testified by studies. So I'm not inviting inventing the statistics. The Université Libre de Bruxelles, so Free University of Brussels, is studying that kind of phenomenon. Also, each 2 years, the Association for Professional Journalists make a kind of report of what is the standard profile of journalists in Belgium. And without surprise, it's a white male between 45 and 50, sorry, and highly educated. Also, we have a lack of women in higher positions. It's most of the time occupied by men, and we have more than 90% of people that are white. And even if we check the evolution of diversity in television, for instance, it decreased according to the Superior Council of Audiovisual Media in Belgium. So you have a lack of diversity, you have a lack of women taking decisions, you have a lack of people of color, you have a lack of people from different sexual orientation. And it has an impact, it has an impact inside the newsroom, because then there is a huge lack of pluralism, and there is no one to challenge your ideas, challenge the topics you choose, challenge the thing you consider as general interest, and there is no one to challenge the neutrality point of view, because most of the time, when you have people from diversity that want to apply to media, the editor-in-chiefs will say, listen here, we are a media, neutrality is one of our pillar value. And what we could see is that you worked for a feminist media, and to us, it seems to be more activism than journalism. So neutrality is today used to exclude people from diversity from the media, and that lack of diversity has an impact on people inside the newsroom, because the very few that are there face a lot of, symbolic violence, microaggressions on a daily basis, and it's very difficult to evolve, and to remain in the field when you are alone, when you don't have any support, when you face harassment, when you have to fight to propose certain topics, because you think it's interesting, but your editor-in-chief would say, yeah, but that is a feminist topic, we are a general media, so we will not cover that. But I think,
They actually say that this is a feminist topic and we don't
yeah, they
cover
say
it.
that. Yeah, I have many testify, and also I also experienced that by myself.
Really? And what was the topic that you
It's
wanted to?
basic topics about women's life, women's rights. So today it's still seen as something activist than journalism, you know, even if we have half of the population that are women, sadly. So you have a lot of bias, you know, you have a lot of bias, and also you have this normative journalism. So people, men, most of the time, white men, they take decisions in the media and they have a kind of vision of what should be journalism, you know. Also, according to the appearance, you know, I also faced some comments about the neutral appearance I should have because I wear a headscarf. They consider it as a like religious symbol, and according to some editor-in-chiefs, most of them, to be honest, they think it has, you know, an impact on the neutrality I might be perceived as biased, you know, because neutrality is still seen as something that is very, very necessary to journalism, even if there are many like scientific studies that prove
So
the opposite.
you proposed subject about women's life, not about your religion, right?
Yeah, of course, yes. And even if I was proposing a topic about my religion, you know, I studied journalism, so I know very well the deontology I'm submitted to, and also now I know how to do my job. I know I have to gather different sources, and basically, I think everyone has bias, you know, and journalism is a subjective profession anyway because it's made of choices. You choose a topic, you choose the person you're gonna interview, you choose an angle, you choose the frame you're gonna present the information. So yeah, it's, you know, you have some narratives that are usually used against people from diversity to maintain them outside, you know. Sometimes it's made like consciously, sometimes not. But again, we really need to create spaces to train the editor-in-chiefs and people who take decisions to create awareness about all, you know, the unconscious or conscious strategy that are created to exclude people, you know, accusing them of activism, telling them they are not neutral enough. And also, you know, we face something that is very particular. It's like kind of paradoxical injunction. So we'll ask a woman not to cover certain topics, but we will like push her and force her doing some stuff that she doesn't want because she's a woman, you know. And you have the same when you have a
What would
specific
be
trait.
that? What would be an example?
For instance, you know, we organize safe spaces at the association. So it's been 4 years now, and it helps us gather a lot of information about the work conditions of our public, you know, of women journalists, people of color. And most of the time they say they hire them. And it's like there is a kind of implicit idea that they will solve all the diversity problem in the newsroom, you know. So it's like they have an expectation that they will always propose that kind of diversity topic. So they will expect them to always propose like people of color are as sources, or they will, if they are Muslim, they will like only cover, you know, topics about Muslims. But it's not, you know, it's not the case. Sometimes, you know, when you want to propose certain topics, then you are accused to be biased. But when you don't want to cover that because you have other interests, such as politics, economic, um, history, or whatever, then we will push you to be, you know, you will be stuck in doing stuff that will put you in a kind of in French we say essentialisation, you know. So we reduce you to a criteria of your identity, you know.
Mm, okay, to do like whitewashing of
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, that's I would not imagine that. But what would be like so your organization does trainings on that
Yeah.
with the management and how you know what how does that look? What's the process that you use?
The thing is that today in Belgium you have, so you have the public services, and they are kind of forced, to work about diversity because it's a kind of condition, to have some funds, and you have the private sector. Today, the thing is that there is no obligation to the private sector to work on that. It's completely based on their free will. So normally in democracy, and if we want to save democracy, because it's very important to understand that racism, sexism, and all the discrimination are completely linked to democracy. It's not two different topics. Diversity is not like another topic, outside democracy. What we try to make people understand is that if we want strong democracies, we need to have pluralist media. It doesn't make sense to have a few people taking control of the media and controlling the narratives and the way we represent society and the way we represent the interests of the citizens in the media. So what we would like today, it's a kind of, a condition to get help, a stronger condition to have like governmental help and funds. And yeah, today it's based on free will, and we really need something more, how can I say that in English? Well, it doesn't come, the word doesn't come, it comes in French, but we really need
In
to
French,
make it mandatory. We need to make it mandatory
okay.
to be trained about diversity. Also, I think one of the most challenge we face today as journalists and as media is we need to regain the trust of the public. We really face that kind of lack of trust. The fact that we can include people, in the reflection about diversity and democracy in the media, include them in build the narratives and the media of tomorrow will also help, because today media is a kind of place of power, it's a place of power because we lead the narratives, we have it in our hands. And, for decades, we just told stories and we depicted society with our own lenses, sometimes with a lot of stereotypical stories, without including people. And today we're like, we face like a kind of backlash, and we are surprised by the fact we don't have any trust, but we didn't include people from the beginning. It's anecdotic, the way we include people in the media, but I think they should have better voices, and also we should be very careful about from where the media have their money. And today we can see here in Belgium, also in France, that there is a very few people that are controlling the media. And it has an impact, on the direction we have, on the fact that today the media are very weak. And that's also because it's been decades we serve the political discourse, in place of doing our work. Not all the media, of course, but it's very important to me as a journalist to be critical towards my profession, and I think being critical enough and take the time to, do a kind of meta journalism and, zoom out and see how we create information will help us have the more trust from the public. Inclusion of plural voices. People need to see them in the media. Belgium is a country that is very diverse, and diversity is increasing through the years. And the fact that a huge part of the society is not seeing themselves in the media, and the very few occasion where they see themselves in the media is very violent, is information, such as the example I gave during the parliament session. It's like 1 week ago here in Brussels, we have a media which is Sudinfo, that published a covering about the unemployment people, because now here in Belgium, a lot of people will lose their social help for employment. And the Minister of Work, so David Claraval, said that most of that people are foreigners. They are not Belgian, which is completely false. But the media didn't do their job, actually. They didn't fact check the information and they just published that, you know. And it's so harmful for people that are also citizens of this country, you know. It's so insulting, and we need to understand that deontology is so important for us. We need to stick to it because, you know, we have a social responsibility as journalists to depict the society in a fair way and to look for the truth. But when you publish that kind of information, you know, that is consciously spread by politicians, you know, to manipulate the information, it's a huge fail. It's a huge fail for the whole profession, and it's a shame. And I really want to make people understand that if it still happens today, it's because we have a lack of diversity.
I would like to touch a little bit on what you said, that there's a credibility that media lost, and sometimes due to this negative, like very awful phenomenons. And from your perspective, sexism and misogyny in our profession, how do you see it affecting the credibility?
Well, basically, it's the chances. So you have inside the room, the newsroom, and you have the stories we tell. Inside the newsroom, it's a question of equality, you know, and equal chances to get employment in the sector. So in Belgium, we have a lot of women at universities and journalism schools. But as soon as they enter the market, they disappear after 30 years. So we have studies that are depicting this phenomenon. They really disappear, you know, because they face unequal chances, you know, they're underpaid. Most of the time they have part-time jobs, and also they remain freelancer longer than male. And they don't get the chance, you know, to have higher positions. So that has an impact on the fact that we will bring topics about women in the media, you know, to the public. It will have an impact on the way we will shape the information. And it has also an impact on the fact that the interests of the half of the population will not be shared in the media, you know. And we also depict, you know, different topics in a very stereotypical way. Sorry. And we basically erase women from a lot of topics, you know. Today, if you go to our national medias, you check the websites, you scroll down, you'll see only men, you know, in main topics. And also we can see a kind of gendered role. Topics about education, health, fashion, it's covered by women. But the topics that are hard, like economic, politic, then justice, it will remain male's topic, you know. But we should have a more equal repartition of the topics and a more equal representation of women. Also, the way we choose the pictures, the people we try to interview, you know, most of the time women, they are interviewed as testifiers, you know, as witness people, not as experts, you know. Today in Europe, we only have 24% of women experts in our media, according to the Global Media Monitoring, to the last study, which is very recent, and we only have 7% of people from people of color, women and male included. So that's a very few, you know, when you see how many women we have in the society and also how many women have expertise, you know. During our trainings, when we create awareness and we give tools to journalists to create more fair information, we do kind of exercises, you know, to make them deconstruct the way they work, this kind of automatism and, some stuff that are very biased that we learn at university. And we do some exercises and I ask them, listen, I'm going to give you some topics and you have exactly 5 seconds to tell me to who you think first to cover the topic. So I put the timer and they really have 5 seconds. And each time the first person they think about, it's a white male. Because, we have that kind of bias that we need a good client. In French, we say le bon client. We have a lack of time. We are underpaid because, the fact that we face lack of money, it also has an impact on the way we create information and it's undermining journalism. The fact we have to be very fast and we have to produce a lot of topics to have, the amount of money that will make us live correctly. It makes you have some reflexes, and some habits that you really need to be conscious about. And if we don't create spaces where we can train and make it more conscious, make journalism a more conscious profession, then you just basically will continue doing that. You will basically continue using the wrong words to depict a situation. For a long time here in Belgium, journalists were referring to feminicide as familial drama, or like a very bad romance that was a tragedy,
But people die. I mean,
Yeah, but really, like we were using in French, we say un drame familial, so family drama,
like
crime passionnel, so patient crime. And, there are a lot of organizations and also activists that really stood for the right words we need to use. And a lot of journalists, such as Safia Kessas, Camille Werners, Catherine Joie, they did a lot, to make people understand how we should cover sexual violence against women and violence, like global violence against women. But, all of that, it takes time. And we need funds to do that. We need support, we need funds, we need spaces, and we need support. All kind of support, from the public, but also from the editor-in-chiefs and from the government. Otherwise, we will continue creating, the gap between the public and the media will be wider and wider, and we will lose the battle, the media battle against far right, because it's that as well, it's that as well. If the media are so weak today, it's also because far right is gaining more and more power in Europe, and everything is linked. That's really something we try to make people understand. It's women's rights, diversity, inclusion, democracy, pluralism. It's all the fingers of a same hand. It's not like different topics. And also, the way we fund our media, everything is linked. It's a constellation. And this is something we would like people to understand, because most of the time when we create media, first thing we think about, it's the way we will fund it. And then at the end, like 5 years after the creation of the media, we're like, oh yeah, maybe we should have more diversity in the room.
I totally feel that, and you're totally right, because it might be that also organization it might be in that situation,
And if I can just like add something, is that today we face a phenomenon that is called tokenism. It's that, sometimes some media, when they face critical public criticism, and they have a very bad buzz about covering the topic, then they have a kind of panic and they try to reach more diversity and they try to recruit more diversity. And it's done in a panic, not in a very, not in a vision. And then, they will pick some people like that, they will recruit them, but they don't really think about the space they will include them in it. So now, so we call that tokenism, because you are invited to a space where you're not really welcomed, because nothing is
just
made
put
to
there
make you
to
feel included. You
Yeah.
know, it's just like we need a black person, and we need a Muslim, and we need a woman, and we need a gay. Let's gather all of us. And now in French we say débrouille-toi, like do
Do
whatever you
something.
can with the resources we
Yeah.
give you,
Yeah.
very poor
That's
resources we give
yeah,
you.
that's
And then, you know, the colleagues and the atmosphere is not made, you know, as you evolve in a very homogeneous newsroom for years, and from today to tomorrow you have new people with another background, another way to think, another way to work as well, because it's also that it's creating the possibility for people to think differently, because it's also that, you know, diversity, it's not only a question of representation, it's also a question to accept different ways to think and to work. You cannot do that if it's not, you know, well taught.
definitely. I would just like to touch on final maybe on one thing that we see a lot of, and I remember that you told me that we need to clean house on in our media.
Yeah.
And one thing that I see, it's a lot of online harassment against powerful women journalists that are doing hard-hitting investigations, and then you see that they're attacked because of that. And from how do you see this phenomenon? Is this a phenomenon, and did you see it on
Yeah.
at your level? And maybe just touch on that in like 5 minutes because our Zoom
Yeah.
will close, and
Okay.
maybe we can
Very quickly.
yeah.
So since COVID, we could see and measure skyrocketing online harassment. Like it exploded during COVID, and we can see, according to different studies, European studies, international studies, women, and especially women of color, are facing a lot of hatred online. You have more chances to be harassed and to be threatened when you are a woman of color and you take a digital space or you take place in the media than a male. And most of the people that are exerting the harassment are men. There is a very, very good documentary about the topic, which called, in French, it's called Sale pute, which means like dirty slut. And it's made by Florence Hainaut and Myriam Leroy, who are two fabulous journalists, Belgian journalists, and they faced a lot of harassment. And the documentary depicts very, very well the phenomenon. And we really need help. We need help because we have a lack of tool, you know. Today, the fact that you have anonymous people that may comment very, very harsh and violent stuff online, it helped them being, you know, how do we say that in English? It's just encouraging impunity, you know. And also, it says a lot, you know, about our society, the fact that we don't give the chance to women to raise their voice, you know, we don't give the chance to women to participate to the public debates. It says a lot. And today, I really invite our colleagues to do a lot, because it's, you know, it's a matter of society, it's a matter of government, and it's a matter of colleagues. You know, you have different level of actions. You have the level inside the newsroom, so we need clear protocols to react when one of the colleagues is harassed. We need online moderation, and we also need very, very clear decisions by the government, you know, and also by Europe to make that end, because it's some, you know, most of the time we say online harassment, but online harassment is actually a public space harassment, because digital is the second wider public space we have. And most of the time, what we call online harassment has consequences in the real life of people. And that online harassment turn into like wider harassment, because then you may be harassed in the street. People may come to your job. One French journalist, which is Nadia Dam, People found the school of her daughter, and they start harassing her. So, online harassment has very clear consequences in people's life. So we should stop considering it as something that we cannot touch and something that is just like cyber and digital. It's true. People get assaulted in the streets, and also it leads to censorship, which is completely against democracy, and we need to make space and encourage women voices in the media.
Thank you. And just one last thing, if you would have a message for a woman journalist that is online harassed, what would you say to her? What would be your message to her?
I would say don't disappear from that space. Continue what you're doing because it's so necessary for representation and also for the pluralism. I would say please don't stay alone. Don't stay alone. Try to create a network that would support you when you are harassed, and also try to get the information and to train yourself